Hello and welcome to yet another exciting Apache Superset tutorial. And today I will be taking you a bit back to one of my previous tutorials where I got a request from Ania, this request, where she requested me to create a tutorial on how the Apache Superset installation can be done. As you can read on your screen, can be done in a setup like this one. So I'm gonna be having two AWS EC2 instances, both of them running Ubuntu 18.04, and then one of the EC2 instances will be running Apache Superset, and then the other one will be running the MySQL database, like you see on the screen there. Without wasting much of your time, I'm going to assume that you already have your AWS account set up. That is an assumption, and I am going to assume that you pretty much know your way about around the AWS, right? So sign in straight into your console. After this, after logging into your AWS console, then you click or search simply under the compute category, then search for EC2. This is my recently visited, so I'm simply going to click on my recently visited service. That is the EC2 service, and then it's going to run to open this new page. I'm not going to take you through all these steps. This is just an assumption that you already know what you're doing. The first thing that you're going to have to do, launch instance. And remember, I'm working with two instances, both of them running Ubuntu 18.04, right? Just going to pick this one, free tier eligible, then select it, and then I create next, and then here I come here, leave it by everything as it is. This is not an AWS tutorial. Hit next, then tags. So just like what the instructions say here, I'm simply going to say name. The first one is going to be Superset server. Sorry, Superset SVR, like this one, and then carry on to this part. So we're going to revisit the security groups. So by default, this is what we get, the SSH, and then the protocol, the port number. Currently, let's leave this the way it is, right? And then we review and launch it. And then launch it. So we're going to use create a new pair. Uh, this is so important if you want to connect using your terminal and all that. So I'm going to call mine Superset SVR key. Remember where you put this. I'll be back after it launches. Oh, okay. So now you can simply click on that one, and then it's going to show me a new dashboard. I'm simply going to call it dashboard, a table of my instances, right? So it is still initializing. Let me come back in a few minutes. Now that it's done, let's go ahead and create the other server, our EC2, our second EC2 instance, and this one will be carrying the MySQL database server, right? So we do the same process. Um, I don't know the operating system you're gonna be using. Still, for me, it's Ubuntu 18.04. The same things. I'm going to do the same processes. So I'm going to just hurry it up. Welcome back. So now I have my two servers, my two instances. So the first one is the Superset server, and then the second one is the um, MySQL server. And as you can see, this is the one that has been selected currently, and this is the IP address that we're gonna be working with. as well as the public DNS that we're gonna be working with. So watch closely. And then on my machine, I have this recovery key.pem file. That's the one that I can use to connect to my database, right? To connect to my SSH rather, sorry. And then the same happens for the superset, the server, the IP address, and the public DNS. So to connect to one of these servers, in fact, I'm going to connect to all of these servers. Simply select on the superset server, on the server that you want, then click on connect button, and then you copy this text here, this command, right? And then open your favorite terminal. I prefer to use Commander. And then let me just redirect. I created a folder called Learn AWS, where if I list, I'd have my two um, key files. Yeah. So I'm going to split these two, and I want you to remember this. On the left, we're gonna be having my SQL server, and then on the right, we're gonna be having the terminal for the superset server, right? So let me quickly do this. Split right. So on the right, we have the superset server, and then on the left, we have the MySQL server. All right. So we want to connect to my superset server. So this will be on the right here. Paste it, then press enter, and then accept. Let me quickly copy for MySQL server. I want to connect to MySQL server instance. I'm sorry if you're familiar with all this, then you can skip right ahead, right? So let's quickly do some of the things that will get us up and running. So one of the things that these two servers that have to ping each other and respond. So if you, for example, I'm always going to start with the superset server, the one on top, copy this IP address, go to your terminal. So this is the superset server. Let me try to ping it from the MySQL server terminal, right? So if I try to ping it, I get no response. And then the same applies if you try to ping the MySQL server while it's you're on the superset server. This is pretty much because of those security rules where you have to specify that to allow ICMP, right? So let's quickly go through all that. You're gonna have to do these processes so that you'll be able to configure and also connect your databases since they are running on separate servers, right? So now let's go here and then this, or you can rather launch, right? So if you launch, that's where you get to see this part. It's the same as taking you straight. If you scroll down, you're going to see that we have a left side bar, and if you scroll down, you're going to see we have the network and security category. You simply go there and you click on security. And also, I have the superset inbound, the superset group. I have all that. Maybe not to waste your time, I'm just going to use the superset group. So the superset group has this. It allows HTTP port this and port 80, and it also allows SSH port 22. It also allows MySQL port 3306, and it also allows the ICMP rule echo request. Make sure it's an echo request, not echo reply. Make sure it's an echo request, and then this is the range, right? I'm going to leave it like so that probably you jot it down before I move forward. So this is my superset group, the security group that I created. Okay, so now we move back to our instances, and then on our instances, we now select, we need to change the security group for this server, right? So we selected MySQL server, and then you go to actions. Under networking, you say change security groups, and then it's going to give you a list of all the security groups that are there currently. And what we want, this is the default, this is the currently selected one. What we want is this superset one. So we take the superset one and then we assign it. This is for the sake of this presentation. Maybe you might need to edit a few things so that you maintain your security per your organization standard, right? And then now if you scroll to the right for MySQL server, you're going to see that we now have superset under uh, the security groups column. We do the same also for superset server, actions, networking, change security groups, and then you deselect the current one, and then you select superset. Remember, superset is the security group that I created. And now, if you go back to your terminals, you're going to see that these two, now that we've allowed ICMP, these two are now responding to each other. So the next thing we also need to consider is installing the installation of MySQL. So MySQL server. So now on our terminal, we'll be dealing with the left side of the terminal. So we need to install here. So on our left now, we just do an update and then I'll come back soon after. Now that is done, we run sudo get install MySQL server. I'm assuming that you already know how to do this, right? How to install MySQL server. Now that is done, we can now cross-check if MySQL has been installed successfully. Sudo MySQL. Maybe for now we can just say version. So we have 5.7.29. We have successfully installed MySQL, right? Now, one thing that I would really advise you is to create a dedicated user. So let's go ahead and create a dedicated user instead of using the usual root. So you're going to see just because I didn't install everything, like the installation of my secure MySQL secure, that script that enforces security, you're going to see that by now I'm just logging in without a password for root. It's not a proper thing to do, but then I'm just doing it anyways for the sake of this tutorial. Let's create a user. Logged 89, and then let's create a user called UE. Okay, so this is what we have. Created user called UE. I need you to do one more thing here. Okay, I'll do it at the end of the tutorial, towards the end of the tutorial. So create user UE localhost. So this is the person that we're gonna be using. I prefer this one. Now we grant him the privileges. I'm simply copying and pasting. Granting him all the privileges, right? Now we can exit and try to log in with UE. We now have a perfect connection. We now have MySQL database installed. Uh, the next thing that I'm going to do is just to create a database in this one, and then in our instance, and then put in pretty much the same database tables that we used in the previous tutorials. So I'll be back in a short while. And oh yeah, I figured maybe you might be interested in just knowing how you can connect your MySQL workbench on the local machine